God has already had your future figured out. What you don't realize is God has plans for you that have already been created before you were even born. He knows your purpose. He knows what you're going to experience, what you're going to go through. He already has the blueprint for your life, right? Like an architect needs a blueprint to know the length, the width, the height of every single thing they're going to use to build, right? Like just like your life, right? The framework you need for your life, God should be the head of that. But what comes with that is planning, right? God should be number one, and then the rest of your life should be full of plans, right? How you see your life unfolding should start with God. Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. To give you a future and a hope. For I know the plans I have for you." God already knows the plans. So let the Lord work. Why are we always constantly wanting to work and thinking everything will go well for us, right? We can put in however much work in our life, still not shape how we want it to. Our life could not turn into what we see our future looking like just because we put in all this work. It's if God's will allows it. It's if God allows what's going on to happen for you, right? That's why we can't lean on our own understanding. We can't lean on our own understanding because leaning on our own understanding gives us a limited view of how our life is. When we have a limited view, we can't see the blessings. We can't see the future, right? Because we're only living in the present. God knows our past, present, and our future. God knows all three. We don't even have to explain anything. We don't have to talk to God about that stuff. He knows it. And so we sit here and try to be like Abraham and Sarah, who tried to bear a kid and tried to do what they wanted to do because they were so worried and because they couldn't trust God's plans and they wanted to rush the process. You cannot rush your own process. Repeat after me. Do not rush your process. Do not rush your process. Because when you rush the process, that's showing that you don't trust God fully. When you rush your process, you have no patience, you have no discipline, you have no wisdom. And a lot of us, we do try to do things on our own so we can get there because, yes, nobody's going to get it for us, right? Human beings are not going to get it for us, to get extra money for us. But God has already ordained how your life will go. Yes, you can do the extra to get multiple sources of income. That's really good. That's really good. But God has already ordained how that income will come to you, right? He will bless you with what he needs to bless you with at his own timing and his own expense, right? So when I think about Abraham and Sarah, Sarah was older. Abraham and Sarah specifically is older. She believes she cannot bear a child, right? Read about this in I believe it's Exodus 20, or I believe. And she believes that she is too old to bear children. God tells her, Sarah, you are not too old to bear children, for you will bear children, right? Abraham, who sits here, is like, Lord, allow my wife to bear a child. And Abraham and Sarah, at first, they were patient, they trusted God. But as time went on, as days went on, their faith started to waver. They started to wanted to rush the process. They were like, Lord, how about I go to the handsmaid, right? I forgot what the handsmaid's name was. I want to go to the handsmaid, Lord. But this is the thing. They didn't ask God to do that. They wanted to do it, right? They chose to do that. And because of that, it's their process was messed up. Though they ended up bearing a child in the end, because they didn't fully trust God, it made them delay the process that God had already formed. What am I trying to tell you? Do not delay your process because of your own desires and because of your own wants and needs on your own timing. Because your timing is not God's timing. Where you want to be in your life and what you want for your life isn't based on your timing. isn't fully based on your timing. Some things you can't control, but a lot of things that you want to control, you cannot, because it's just not meant for you right now, or it's not meant for your life, or God hasn't ordained it to happen now. And what you got to learn to realize is God doesn't do this for no reason, right? There is a reason behind everything He does. A lot of people ask me, how do I know if God is telling me that I should do this to fulfill my purpose for Him, or how do I know if it's Satan or if it's God? Well, if it's from God, it flows naturally, and it not and not flows naturally. It flows naturally, but it's not a feel good thing. It's a balanced thing, right? If I go on YouTube now, I'm doing what I do now, right? Because I enjoy doing it, I love doing it. You know why I started doing this in the first place? Because I couldn't get a job, but I didn't do this for the money. That's the thing. I did this because I have a heart for God and I love doing this. But that's how I was given a purpose in doing this. It's the same way with anything in life. If it comes from God, then it's righteous. If it comes from Satan, then it is forced and it is unhealthy, and it is toxic, and it is not good for you, right? You need to do stuff. You need to talk to God about it on a regular day basis. Pray to God. You have to talk to God, and it may come with patience. It may come with faith. You need your trust. You need all of these things in order to sometimes figure out what your purpose is, right? Because you have a purpose, but you have to trust the plans that God has already laid out for you. He already made the plans, the blueprint. You just have to follow it. Or if you don't know what it is, you just have to seek it. You have to find it. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to find it, right? Do you think Noah knew? Oh, you think Noah knew that his purpose was to build an ark? That Noah knew? Oh, before God even told him. You think he knew that? Oh, I need to build an ark. I need to tell people that there's a flood coming. He didn't know there was a flood coming until God told him. He didn't know. But God gave him direct instructions. God gave him purpose. And with that purpose, he saved people that listened to him. And there's some people that end up passing away because they were prideful and because they didn't want to listen. But see, that's what Noah had a purpose there. God made his story an inspiration. And there was a purpose behind that. Same thing with Jonah. Jonah ran from God. And then Jonah got swallowed up by a fish, and he had no choice but to listen to God. And it really opened his eyes, right? Same thing with Pharaoh. Pharaoh wouldn't let the people go. He would not let the people go. And so many times did Moses come up to Pharaoh, like telling him, "Let my people go," right? So many times, so many different and y'all know I'm not gonna edit this video much. There was so many different plagues that the Lord put, whether it was famine, whether it was locust, right? Whether the people couldn't understand each other by having different languages, right? There were many different things that God used, but that was a part of the plan because God knew how foolish Pharaoh was, that he would keep going back and forth. Like, oh, tell your Lord to stop, with the famine, stop doing this, stop doing that, right? You can read about that in Exodus as well. This is when Moses parted the Red Sea. Let my people go, let my people go. Like, because of that, God ordained those things to happen to get Pharaoh to do it and to keep going back and forth. And for him, ultimately, to actually believe that there is a God, right? Because he would say, your God towards Moses. Tell your God to stop doing these things. But then Pharaoh became a believer. What am I trying to tell you? God has plans for you. God has designs for you. And it is up to you to follow those plans, to not follow those plans, and to rush those plans. Don't rush your process. Don't rush the plans God has for you because He wants to prosper you. He wants your life to be amazing. He has built a life of amazingness for everybody, even in the worst conditions. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something. As always, God bless.